유럽의 강서국가, 작은 초록 요정의 나라 아일랜드를 아십니까? 수천 년 역사를 통해서 유럽의 강국들의 침략과 약탈을 당하면서도 그 역사와 그 민족의 얼을 지켜온 작지만 강한 나라 아일랜드를 소개합니다. 한국과 많이 비교되는 나라이긴 하지만 한 가지 면에 있어서는 한국과 분명히 다릅니다. OECD 국가 중에서 아일랜드는 양성평등 지수가 5위인 국가입니다. 참고로 한국은 거의 꼴찌. 2명의 여성 대통령 그리고 지금 현재 내각의 거의 30%를 여성이 차지하고 있습니다. 그리고 국회의원 수의 거의 22%가 여성을 두고 있고요. 그럼에도 불구하고 아일랜드는 그 나라 여성들을 위해서 계속적으로 더욱더 좋은 양성평등 정책을 피고자 합니다. 이런 아일랜드의 노력에 대해서 주한 아일랜드 대사 앙헬 오도노반을 오늘 만나보겠습니다.
The recent elections, I hear, got you from 15% to 22% of women parliamentarians.
Yeah.
That's congratulations, quite a feat.
Yes, well, it's a big step forward, but we had put in place measures to try and make this happen, and in particular, we had put in place the requirement that political parties, that 30% of their candidates be women. And it was backed up by pretty strong enforcement, because if they didn't fulfill this requirement, then they would lose a certain amount of funding. Because the political parties all get a certain amount of funding.
Related to funding, money.
Yeah, money, exactly. So it wasn't just an aspiration or a target, it was an actual, there were consequences if the political parties didn't meet this. I suppose the other thing that's interesting though is that while we've had, up to now, the number of women in the parliament has been around 15%, 16%, so very similar to here in Korea. One difference is we do have more women in the cabinet. So we had over a quarter of our cabinet are women and holding very senior positions like Minister for Justice, Deputy Prime Minister, etc. So it's almost been a little anomalous that the number of women in the Parliament has remained relatively static.
Yes.
Yeah.
Overall, what is the status of women in Ireland?
Yeah, I mean, we've had huge changes and huge strides, really probably from about the early 1970s onwards. And I would link a lot of it to our membership of the European Union also, which was very positive for the role of women in Ireland. So we now have a broad range of equality policy legislation, Equal Status Act, anti-discrimination in work, very good maternity benefits for women working. But of course, still many challenges. So we would not have anything like the number of women we would like to see at senior levels in business, senior levels in politics, as we were just talking about. So that has been one of the priorities, actually, of the government, is to focus on how do you get women into more senior positions. Women continue to suffer in Ireland from a gender pay gap. There are issues around women, particularly therefore, who are marginalised. We would have seen in Ireland where we have been successfully through a fairly difficult economic time and come out very successfully, but very often you will see the impact can be worse on women.
Yes. We don't need to get into all of them, but if you could just tell us maybe one of the policies that the government uses in order to protect and ensure that women do not suffer more than they need to.
Yeah, well, I suppose through our social welfare system, there are quite a number of measures now in place which would be targeted in many ways at women. So, for example, one of them would be single parent provisions to help single parents, also, which almost invariably are women, and also provisions around balancing that transition from being on social welfare into work and creating a system that allows women to find a gradual path to work. I mean, one of the things I think, again, that the government has realised is the importance of childcare in terms of women's access to employment. So we do now have a provision for 1 year's free childcare for all children before the age of 4, and that will be extended to 2 years free childcare now. But for women, again, who are in particularly poverty situations, they would get additional benefits, yeah.
I want to turn to you. You've obviously had a long career, have a family, and have been balancing both for as long as you've had a career and a family, pretty much. How do you do it?
Well, yeah, I guess it's not always easy, is the first thing. I don't think it's easy for anyone. There's no doubt in my view also that it is a challenge that still rests far more on women's shoulders than on men's shoulders.
In Ireland.
Yes, even in Ireland, very definitely so, yeah. In our case, I would have to say, on the other hand, we have had myself and my husband have had a very partnership approach. He has been willing to travel around the world with me. But he's also, I mean, some of it is interesting now. New technologies help. So for some women that can help because maybe they can work from home. In my case, that has helped enormously because my husband has essentially been able to bring his job with him and e-work and work with video conferencing and conference calls.
What kind of family traditions do you have in your household? I have very difficult time because having any family time with my kids. So when I cook, I make sure that when my daughters are with me.
Oh, okay, right.
Are there things that you like to do with your family sort of to keep that balance?
Yeah. 2 little examples. One, my daughter here, poor girl, has to leave the house very early to go to school. And one of the things I decided was that I would always get up, even if it's only 5 grouchy minutes. She has a quick bagel or something. Because some evenings I'm not home until quite late. And that way I always see her at least at the beginning of the day. We do have a very strong tradition of cooking and eating together, though we tend to do it in turns, my husband and I. We're both into cooking, so it tends to be in turns, but we have a very strong tradition and that there is a family meal. Obviously that's if we're at home, but we do really try and do that a lot, yeah.
I get this question, but do you feel that because of you're balancing both things at once, that both is suffering or one is suffering over the other?
I think there are times when I felt that. I think that, you can't have it all, as they say, or rather they did say we could have it all, but I don't think we can. Yeah. But I think that you have to realise, or I've come to realise, that there will be bits of guilt, in one place or another at different times, that maybe if you were doing something 100% or not having competing, there will be bits of guilt if you feel that, you can't stay in the office as late as you would like or need to every night, or equally that you're not always there for your daughter. But I think that one of the things I always knew was that ultimately I would be a better member of our family and a better mother if I was also working. I don't think I would be a good person in the home. I would have found that very frustrating. So it's important to have time with your family. And we let other things go then, so maybe I don't have probably very many hobbies or activities, because between work and family, that pretty much covers it,
Pretty much,
yeah.
Yes. Pretty much covers 27
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Going back to the workplace, I mean, you talked about how government and there's a pretty much a robust participation of women everywhere, but it has to be sort of supported by the work structure. In the government area, for example, is it easier for a woman to participate and to rise and to be successful? Are there certain practices that allow women to have equal footing as their male counterparts?
Well, I think it's very interesting because the public sector in Ireland has very strong family-friendly policies. So very strong maternity leave with full rights to come back in to the job you left, not just back into work. Flexible working hours, job sharing, a whole range of things. But we had to realize, or we've come to realize, there's an element of a, a two-edged sword about this, because of course what has happened, we've realized, is that women who avail of all these provisions, and again it is usually women, then can find that when it comes to that moment of making maybe a crucial promotion or crucial next step up, they're not so well placed. Are they being given the jobs that give them a lot of exposure maybe to the minister? And we've seen that we need to look at that. So now we have a policy for assignments saying, okay, gender proofing them essentially. Is this, should we be looking at this list of assignments and saying, is this balanced in a gender way? Yeah. I don't know that it's necessarily giving them advantages compared to their male counterparts. I think what it is, and some women will decide essentially to, say, okay, this is as far as I want to go with my career. I have the balance right here. But there are many others who want to move on. And so I think it's about making sure that those policies we put in place, which are not policies for women, they really are policies for families. It's just that women mainly avail of them.
So you focus on the family side of it rather than just the women.
Yeah, but it's not an easy argument, because they do tend to be seen as policies or women's issues, really. But one point I would always make is that they're actually there for the family. And it's still more that our societal practice is that it's mainly women who still, take these policies and or avail of these policies, and mainly women who still carry the larger burden of childcare.
Last question, sort of off the wall question. Since we're going to be interviewing mostly diplomats, and they travel around the world and they serve as representatives of their country, we've thought, okay, let's imagine that we give you like the presidency of the world for like a day or a minute or whichever, and say you can change whatever you want. This is president.
Right. Okay. Goodness.
What would you change?
Wow. Where to start, I guess. Well, I think I would. I think I would come back to the first point, which is women in Parliament, or women in the decision-making roles. I think that's hugely important, because once you then have women's voices in that decision-making process, I think it helps a lot. Over time, that's not to say that every woman who's elected to office is a feminist. That's not to say I agree with every woman who is a member of our parliament, but I think having women's voices heard in the political process is hugely important. For example, Rwanda, because one of the other women ambassadors in Korea is from Rwanda. In Rwanda, 60% of the members of parliament are women, which is an extraordinary story, So I think getting more women into parliament, if I only had 1 minute and one decision, getting more women into parliament,
We should give you that decision. Anyway, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. And
have we left anything else? Do you want to?
Maybe just, I guess, since this is going to be looked at, you were saying young Korean women.
Yes.
I guess what I would be saying always, be it to young women in Ireland or young women here, is we've come an enormous way, but there are still very big challenges. But, this is your moment. You just, that we now can grasp these opportunities and we can make changes. So this is your moment, and be ambitious and be ready to make changes. So